Good morning, and welcome to Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. It's Monday morning, and we are looking at Genesis chapter 27. So, the family drama continues on in this particular chapter, and we find that Isaac is getting old in age, and so he's no longer able to see as clearly as he previously could. It says that his eyes were dim. And so he realized that death is coming to him. And so what he does is he tells his favorite son, Esau, to go out and to catch him some game and make a food for him, a savory food, it says, and bring it to Isaac to eat. And then he's going to bless his son, Esau. So what happens then is Rebecca overhears this conversation, and she realizes what's about to happen is that Isaac is going to give the full blessing to his son Esau, and he's not going to consider Jacob, his twin. And what happens is when a father at this point in time gives a blessing, the whole family is supposed to be gathered around, and kind of Isaac's blessing to be divvied up between folks. But Isaac's trying to be tricky himself and get around that by giving the blessing when nobody else is around. So Rebecca catches on to this, and of course, her favorite son is Jacob. So she tells Jacob while Esau's out to go get one of the best lambs that is in the field and to bring it to her, and she's going to make a beautiful meal for him. And Jacob, I mean, he's still kind of a smart guy. He's like, how is my dad, like, he's gonna know, like, I've got smooth skin and Esau is as hairy as can be. This isn't gonna work. And she's like, I got it. I got this handled. And so she makes the food, and then it says that she takes the lamb skin and puts it on Jacob's arms and on his neck so that he will, like, trick his father. And so, so this all happens. So he goes into his father with the food and everything. And I have to admit, Isaac is still pretty with it. And we see that. And, what happens is, like, there's all these questions that Isaac asks Jacob in order to try to figure out what's going on here. So, like, the first question's like, well, how did you find food so quickly? Like, this isn't like you. And so, of course, Jacob's response is like, well, the Lord blessed me, and so I was able to find food very quickly for you. And so he's like, okay, but you still kind of sound like my son Jacob. And so he's like, come over here, let me touch you. And of course he touches him, and he feels the fur, the wool, and he's like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then he's like, okay, kind of come over here, we'll give you a blessing. And then, oh yeah, and Rebecca also put on Esau's cloak on Jacob, so that he would have the clothes of Esau. There we go. And so when Isaac pulls Jacob close to him, he smells the cloak. And he's like, well, it smells like my son Esau. So he's realizing, he's like, it doesn't sound like him. But all these other pieces and parts are adding up to this. And so what he does is he offers a full blessing. Everything goes to Jacob. And there's that trickery that has happened. Isaac's trying to trick the family by giving it to Esau, and it just is back and forth and everything. So, of course, as soon as Isaac finishes the blessing, we are told that Esau comes in with from hunting and has prepared the food and who is ready to receive the blessing. And both, of course, Isaac and Esau now are in shock because they've all been tricked. And of course, it's like doubly sad for Esau because if you remember back, he also gave up his birthright because he just kind of threw it away to Jacob when he was hungry. He was like, it's doing me no good right now. And so he threw that away and gave that to Jacob. And now Jacob has gotten the full blessing from his father. And so, like, Esau is really without at this point in time. And the only thing that can happen is his dad, Isaac, kind of gives him an inverted blessing. So, kind of just the opposite of what he gave to Jacob, he gives to Esau. And so, it's this kind of really sad moment in the family of what's going on here. So, of course, what happens? Esau is furious and he decides that he wants to kill his brother. And what happens is Rebecca overhears this. Word gets to Rebecca again. And you really start to wonder, who's the tricky one here? I mean, Rebecca's the one coming up with all of these good ideas, and Jacob's just kind of following along. So anyways, but Rebecca finds out again, and she is like, I need you to leave town immediately. And anyways, I don't want you marrying one of these women around here. So she's like, we should just send you to our family so you can get to get married. And so she's like, you've got to get out of here before Esau finds you. And I do think it's cute, kind of. I don't know if it's cute, but it just shows you family drama. In 46, verse 46, it says, Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women, such as these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? So, we recognize that the whole family is involved in this drama of blessings and curses, so to speak, and marriage is like a whole family thing, and it's all tied together. And I have to admit, this is one of those chapters where you're like, what's happening here? We have deceit that happens, we have anger that happens, and it's all happening right here. And everybody's tricking each other, everybody's misunderstanding each other. And we're left with all of that. We really are left with that. But what I think is interesting is you have to look at it not just as this chapter in and of itself. We have to see how it plays out later in life. This is one of those chapters that really will make sense in retrospect. What happened here connects the dots to what's going to happen later. And if that doesn't speak to what I think many of us are experiencing right now, we're experience a sense of chaos, a sense of not knowing what's next, what's really happening around us, and what's happening in politics, what's happening with our schools, what's happening with our economy, what's happening with our health. We're just kind of in this place of not knowing. But in a few years' time, we're going to be able to look back and say, oh, I see where God was working at that. I see what came out of that. We'll be able to see a different story or a different perspective from it in retrospect. And that's what's here. Right now, it's chaos. It's chaos in the life of Rebecca, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. But it's going to make sense later. And that really speaks to me, at least right now. It feels like chaos, but God's got it. God's working with this. God can do something with this. Even though it might not be right, it might not be fair, God can do something with this. And God's going to do something with this missed blessing. God's going to do something with this family dynamics. God's going to do something with it, but it's going to take a while. And that gives me a lot of hope and faith and joy. And so thanks for joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow. And thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.